I'm not going to remember the question. She's definitely going to have
know.
to ask. Okay, all right, that's fair.
Okay.
I was like, I'm not going to remember that.
All right, so recording them both. First question, what is a message that you want to send to your son, Miss Dukes, about your life, your family's life, thinking about legacy, things that you want to pass out to your children?
So, Linden, a message that I would like to pass down to you takes me back to where I was born in West Helena, Arkansas, a place most people have never heard of before, and a place that my parents escaped during the Great Migration period. And to think about the humble beginnings that they came from and the dream that they had to create a better life for themselves and for me as they brought me here once they established themselves. And so I would speak to you about the life that you're creating for your own family, and the fact that you already speak generationally is a blessing to me. And I'd ask you to continue to create and recreate for yourself the future that you want, not only just for you and your immediate family here, but also begin to think about LJ's children and Lauren's children and the children's children, and realize that in this country, as difficult as things can be, you still can create for yourself the life that you want. You've got everything you need to create what you need for yourself and for your family.
Yeah. Good. Okay.
And a message you want to send to your mom.
Oh, to my mom. I thought it was to him.
You will next.
Okay.
Since they're both here.
I wasn't ready for that one. So, the message I would give my mom, the message I would give to you would be gratitude. It would be very simply gratitude. Thank you. Thank you 1,000 times over, because there were plenty of times where I was unsure and times where I had given up on myself and I wasn't sure of what was next. And I had watched you persevere in ways that I didn't even know were possible. Every time I thought I knew everything about you, there was always some layer that got peeled back, which allowed for me to see more of what it means to be a functioning human being. So, part of the reason I function the way I do is because I saw your strength ever since I was little. So, gratitude. Thank you.
Have a response to that, Mom?
As a parent, I don't think that we always know when we're teaching our children, and especially our firstborns, who God did not give
No
instructions for. And so it is an unexplainable blessing to hear you say that, because so often, especially when when I was first starting out, being a young mother, trying to figure out life on my own and wondering what kind of example I was, and even now, even reflecting back as being a grandmother now, and just wondering, okay, this decision he's making, this obstacle he's facing, did I do my job to help him establish himself from a platform of not where we started, but from where we are now? And your words just tell me that, yeah.
Well, I can say probably the biggest lessons I've ever learned from you were the ones that you didn't know you were teaching. Like, it wasn't, the pointed lessons I don't think land as well as we want them to. But I think that, again, watching you as a 15-year-old having to navigate as much as you did, and then to watch you provide for us the way you did, and then to take that forward and to say we need these things and for you to manifest them. I tell people all the time how even when we had made it so far, like when we were staying out in Churchville and stuff like that, I could still hear your prayers early in the morning when you were fighting for our family, and how that's become a thing for me in my generation and what I do. So I pray for our family the way you prayed for us, because I don't think we would be the same if you hadn't fought so hard for us spiritually.
Okay.
So that's that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that meant a lot to me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
You mentioned Linden, your first born, you were 15,
Actually 17.
17? Okay.
15 was the beginning of the struggle, was it not?
For me.
Yeah.
Yeah. My struggle?
You better stop.
Well,
Back in the front.
it was about then that my parents were beginning to go their own separate ways.
Can you preface this and just say like when you were 15?
So when I was 15 was when my parents had really decided to go their own separate ways. And so my father became a less evident presence in my life. And, 15 is such a developmentally fragile time, especially for a young girl such as myself, living in the suburbs of Greece, where I was one of only 10 black students in my entire school, let alone trying to navigate finding out what type of young woman I wanted to be and was becoming. So it was a very, very fragile time for me. And then to no longer have my parents' support to the level that I did prior to them beginning to break apart.
Yeah.
So that was the difficult time for me,
I'll be right back.
which culminated in Linden at 17.
And it was it difficult for you? Because obviously you were coming out of a difficult time.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. I knew. I wasn't around yet, but we knew.
Yeah.
All right, little man. All right. Can you watch him for a second?
Yes. Tell him grandma. Good man.
What else were we supposed to answer? I'm going to sit back down.
yeah, I know. But while you're doing that, maybe introduce
LJ?
Oh, we're going to introduce you?
Grandma could do it while you're
What are we introducing? Just
so people, they're here a baby.
Ah,
But just
okay.
to say, I'm sitting here with my grandson.
Yeah,
Okay.
got you.
Like that.
Okay. I'm not sitting here with, because Grandma's holding him now, but I was sitting with my son. My son is between 9 and 10 months old now, and he's our promise baby. He's the one we waited on. He was the blessing we said we were going to receive, and I had stood on faith, and he's here now. And believe me when I say, he is everything that God said he was going to be, and then some. So it's very interesting having you around, son.
LJ is definitely a child of promise. Isn't that right? What you gonna do? What you gonna do?
All the noise
He said,
in the
right now
kitchen.
I'm gonna get on this bottle when Dad finished making it for me. But right now, Grandma, yeah.
What was the next question? Mine to LJ? My ode to LJ?
Yeah, but I'm gonna wait until you, because I can hear you. open
Fair.
the bottle and stuff.
Yeah,
Sure.
focus.
I'll just
Okay.
say, "Here you go."
Yeah, I'm impressed.
He a bully.
I'm impressed he's being this calm because he's like, look, yeah, give me the bottle. He's learning patience. Say, it's coming, right?
Young thug.
Okay, yes, now for you.
I knew that's what he wanted. Anyways,
Message. If you could maybe package it in a little bit of the story of him being the promise and what message you have for him.
Okay.
Because for you, that means something. But he would need to know that as he ages.
Okay. Never thought about it that way. LJ, if I could leave anything to you as your father, it would be limitations are self-imposed. Watching my, like growing up, watching my mom accomplish the things that she did, allowed for me to learn that honestly I could do what I wanted to do, right? And I learned also that the world does not always agree with that. The world that will do its best to keep you where you start. And you know, even as a young man, I didn't vibe well with the school system and everything else, and I didn't have any outlets or things to go to that kind of taught me different. However, I will say that I was put into different programs and things going up that let me see that there were different ways to operate. And then, flash forward, I was in my junior year of high school, and I had made the decision to no longer go because I just wasn't doing as well as I wanted to. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that I was bored, and I just didn't like sitting in the classroom doing the same things over and over again. So after about 2 arguments with teachers for the final time, I finally decided it was time for me to drop out. And that was rough for me. But luckily, I had a dad who was an entrepreneur who showed me that you can survive as an entrepreneur. But watching my parents struggle during that time sucked, right? Like watching what it did both to them and to our home. So part of me promised that if I ever became an entrepreneur, that I would limit the time that it took for me to build something great, right? And that's why all of those things became something where I started to believe in myself even when the rest of the room didn't. So the reason why I would leave to LJ that limitations are self-imposed is because if I had done, I hear this phrase all the time, I'm sure everyone has heard it, it's if I knew then what I knew now, then I would have done differently. And I want my son to know exactly what it's like to pursue whatever he wants. I watch that freedom in other communities all the time based on their standings. I don't want my son to ever feel limited because of where his parents started. So that's one of my things I'm going to work really hard to make sure that he has. There? Okay. That was close.
Close.
Close because it doesn't really tell his story and how he got here and all that.
You can fold that in there.
We were told in a church called RWCCI that we would be having a son, and you all know how that goes when you are in a church and someone prophesies over you. Anyone can receive it however they want, but I received it like I got it like I like to say Roger that, right? Receive, order, given, expect results, right? Like that's what I do when God gives me something. So if I clearly hear something from God and it sounds like it's right and it resonates, I go, got it. And I just wait for it to happen based on my own efforts. My wife took it a little differently. She took it like something we have to make happen. And watching that process, that was a rough process. Like there were countless, I could just say it the way it was, countless arguments, countless conversations, countless moments of doubt and anger and frustration between the two of us because of her wanting to bring him to life. And I remember, this is the reason why I said I didn't like wrap it in there. I remember sitting and I forget what it's called when you go have to do artificial insemination and stuff like that. Like sitting in those offices trying to have LJ come in and how that was ruining her body and how it was hurting us in general. And after a while I was just like, yeah, they wanted to go to the next procedure and I just said no. And they were everyone's looking at me like, don't you want this? And I'm like, yeah, but you guys aren't gonna give it to me, so no. And I said that, and I remember there being a sad period for Ashley And then the next thing was adoption. And we were in there, and I had a visceral reaction to that too, but that one was quick for me. Like, we started looking at other kids, and I was like, these aren't my son. And I told her, I was like, I'm leaving. I'm not going to stay here. We're not going to go through this process. I believe in God's promise, so I'm not going to try to force it. And it got so bad that I had to say, basically, I'll leave without you if I have to, but I'm not going to stay in this office. And probably, I don't know, son, it was 8 years since you were promised. I think close to 8. And we had kind of been like, again, I was looking at God's timing, but Ashley, I think, had to give up a little, right? And that was really, really hard for her. So the funny part was, as soon as she gave up, God gave us the blessing. And I don't think she gave up on LJ being here, but I'm talking about surrender to making it happen. And that's part of the journey. It's also the same thing, right? If we hadn't put a limit on it that it had to happen this way, then he could have been here, right? And I think God was waiting for us to align to bring him into fruition, just like most of the thing in our life. So that piece.
Now that he's here, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel a lot of things, but I'm gonna say, so for clarity, because people listening to this don't know, I have a daughter, and she's 18, and Lauren is the reason I am the man I am today. She created the version that everybody loves that Linden is today. I remember when I broke my wrist, I gave up on myself during that time frame, and watching Lauren not know who her not understand her dad wasn't her superhero was a big moment for me, that I knew I had to make a big change. Even more so to the point of I'm gonna say LJ coming in, right? I had already established myself as who I am, right? I have a pretty good idea who I am, what I'm willing to do, what I'm not. And then LJ comes along, and all LJ wants to do is say, we're gonna do these things the way we're supposed to do these things, like stand on your promise. So I'm gonna say a lot of times we don't stand on our promise just because they're uncomfortable or inconvenient. I'm gonna say LJ forced me to stand on promises that I wouldn't have stood on if I was by myself. But now I'm never by myself, right? Even when it comes to what's gonna be next, I can't stop. Today's a great example. Everything being done, even with him here, because that's exactly what it's supposed to be, right? So we're building it for you, right? All this building stuff we're doing, it's for you, little dude. So that's what I meant.
You have something to say, LJ?
You thought about it?
Thinking. Last question. Any lesson, fear, or declarative promise or something that you both would like to share?
I think mine was all 3.
They were.
I think I gave all 3 for myself: lesson, fear, limitations being self-imposed, worrying about him limiting himself. I don't think this little dude's can do whatever he wants, and I hope that he realizes that, and I hope that the world continues to shine that his way, because things are changing quite a bit. So, right?
One thing that stays the same though is that unity. Staying in connection. Staying connected to who you are. The vision that you have. And the people around you. It's like that whole thing, you could have all of the money in the world, but if you're alone, what do you really have?
Right.
Sometimes, especially being an entrepreneur, having a serious career, owning, being the visionary of a business, you can lose track of the people and the reason why you're doing what you're doing.
Fair.
So I would say remember your why, remember your who, and just stay in connection, be in unity with those around you.
You know, for us, like, I don't think it's going to be a problem. And I don't think it's going to be a problem for me or him, just because there's constant reminders all the time. You'll hear, I mean, you know, Carlette knows. I'm always asking people what their whys are. I'm always telling them to remember their whys. I don't think life change comes without understanding why you're doing it in the first place. I think you can progress in a thing, but you can't, it's hard to change. You can progress, you can become a millionaire and still be the same terrible person, right? But in order to change your heart, you have to realize where you are and make a real change, right? So in order for real growth to happen, you have to change, you have to know your why. Right, LJ? Won't speak into the mic.
That's all the questions I had, so
Good.
whatever else you want to talk about.
Fair. What?
I was just thinking about what you said, and when I was
We both looked.
right, like where's the towel? We know that sound. Parents know that sound. Where's the towel? When I was thinking this morning and excited about coming to spend some time with you and you know, just chatting, and I always enjoy our talks. It's like what one of the biggest blessings as a parent is to be able to have like eye-to-eye conversations with your child and learn. Like I can talk to you and learn something, right? But so anyway, so I was thinking, well, like what are we going to talk about today? And I was thinking about what's on my heart. And you know what's mainly on my heart is parenting and the need in our community for parents to engage with their children in like meaningful ways. And I like what you were saying earlier, is like it's not the lessons that I intentionally tried to teach you. It's like the modeling, it's like the life lessons, it's like the discussions, it's the journey doing life together. And now that I'm working in education full time, I can just see culturally that we're losing some of those connections and emphasis from home to education. So that's what I was thinking about today.
Fair. What? Do it.
I want your hat.
Clearly. Yeah, I think, I said, there was, again, we all go through our moments, right? We go through our ups and our downs, our peaks and our valleys, right? So one of my biggest things coming up was making sure that I wasn't defined by the low points in my life, right? Like when I hear people talk about who they are or the people in their lives, like I would hear them talk about things like the bad things that happen, so to speak. Just love this hat. All right, thanks. And I would always go, and I would always go, man, what a terrible way to be remembered, right? Like I'd be like, I don't want to be remembered that way. I want to be remembered for the positive I had, the impact I had, and it's funny. The more responsibility life puts on you, the more I find myself having to steel my resolve, right? So, like our growth is coming in a way that I didn't expect it to happen, but it's also challenging me as a man to stick to my credos, to honor my commitments, to do these things that aren't necessarily fun, like getting punched in the face by a child and not having a response. But what I learned, what I'm doing is I'm learning. I think God gave me this a while back to plug into different facets of wellness. So like there'll be points and periods like where we looked at Indian health wellness, where I'm looking at Native American wellness and like how they incorporate things. Really, you gonna cut me with the hat? And I'm learning that God wants us to learn from one another, and that we all have benefit and things to give. So even creating a space like I have that so many people see the benefit of.
It's coming.
has been a blessing, but also a very like incorporating lesson. When I tell you there are all walks of life coming through these doors, I mean it. And I'm surprised by it, but at the same time, I welcome it and the lessons that come with it. So when this little dude gets older, he's gonna have all the knowledge that Dad gained from all the time and people he's met.
That's right.
So that's how I look at it.
That sounds really good. Okay, so I got to ask you this.
Yeah.
I know we got these cameras and stuff, but so
yeah,
you can edit this out later if you want to. But you know, I finally found out the name of the Native American tribe that our family is rooted in.
Grandma told us.
Yes.
What was it again?
Choctaw.
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 Yeah, because you know a lot of people be like, I'm Blackfoot, but I'd be like, no,
Right,
really,
no.
we really got Indian in our blood. I'm not.
Yes.
Like,
That's so empowering, right?
Yeah.
Because I wondered for years.
but that probably explains why I feel so connected to that stuff too. Like I'm like, man, I wish I did that. Why do I feel like I want to do that? And then to find out later, like, no, we really have Native American in our blood.
Great grandma was Choctaw.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I love that you're connecting. I love that you're connecting to that.
Yeah, it's been because sounds cliche, but it's real at the same time. There is a form out there of what wellness currently looks like that I just don't resonate with. It's the same thing where it comes to people. It's always talking about safe space, and I'm always watching people get hurt and looked over in those same spaces. And my whole goal when I started was to not be like a safe space, but to create more of a brave one. So again, you can be who you are, but there should be some level of accountability. I noticed in Native American spaces that they would have, like, the elders were revered, the conversations were different, the children were allowed to go to and fro, and there was and like to any place, like there was no limitation because everyone trusted everyone. It's like I used to hear back in the day where, if you messed up at one spot, you got a whooping there, you got a whooping at home, you got a whooping maybe at school. Like there is community togetherness, and I don't see enough of that. And a lot of it is because we've been told that lie of we're different. Everyone's so different from one another. So I've been doing my best to learn to accept the differences.
I wouldn't throw him.
I do it.
I wouldn't throw him after a bottle. He looks happy about it though. So tell me more. Tell me more about your wellness model.
So